Schecter Synyster gates thing. It's hard to spot. It's camouflaged against my, what do you call it? Doormat. My doormat. Anyway, so this is Ryan's. Oh, somebody doing a car wash out there. Possibly, possibly not. Yeah, yesterday I had about 1 million huge flies spawned. It's incredible. They do that. There's a certain point in when the temperature's right in the summer. Huge flies, so I had to open the windows and spray, which I don't like to do, but I got rid of them. The ones that could run away, ran away to freedom, and the ones that couldn't died. Anyway, Ryan brought me this guitar for a setup, and so it has quite a high action at the moment. It had a little issue down here, which it was a Gear for Music second, and I kind of apparently Gear for Music seems to sell off a fair amount of broken stock, and this guitar came at a good price, and you know it clearly looked new and intact, but there was a chip out of here down to the wood. There was a chip there, and that was breaking off, peeling off, and there were a whole set of little dings down here on the side. But I filled them with a variety of little approaches. I don't really think you can even see. There's no point if you didn't know what they were. But the one that is least hideable, there's one there. Was one. There's still a tiny bit of it you can see, but it was flaking off, and I filled it, and it's now kind of smooth. So it looks pretty good. There are a whole set of holes there. There were a bunch of like gravel rash, but really deep, so they're filled in. And then the one that kind of was worst of all is this one here, which was a great big triangular chip out. Now I filled it, and you can see it's not absolutely invisible. It's very hard to do, and I've even put a little bit of silver foil in there to try and match up, which again isn't easy to do. It's not even the right colour, but it sort of at a glance it looks much better than it was. So what I noticed whilst doing all of this is there are, first of all, when I took this pickup, sorry about the camera work, when I took this pickup out, obviously I could see into the pickup cavity and see what the damage was, and the reason this had chipped out is because this wooden bridge that separates the end or the neck pocket, there's an overhang here, so underneath there is a little wooden bridge that just basically separates the neck pocket route from the neck pickup route. And then that leaves that little thin strip of bridge, and it's basically broken. Now, the problem is it's only broken at one end. And sometimes, if it's my guitar, when that happens, I might even go as far as to break the whole thing out, glue it back in, and then you have a sort of stronger fix. The good thing about it is this piece of wood doesn't take any structural load, because the load is taken by the 4 neck screws. But you know, it feels a bit nerve-wracking, or it just feels uncomfortable to know that it's cracked. Anyway, but because it was only broken at one end and pushed back a little bit, I pushed it back into place, and then I glued it as much as I could with super glue, knowing that its purpose is not structural. It doesn't stop the neck going back. Now, why is it broken, and why did it obviously? It's taken a bang, which is why this is cracked off. So it's had a knock, I think. And then a bit later on, I found, when I was finishing cleaning up and everything, I discovered, you won't be able to see it probably, but there is in fact a crack. Oh, hellfire. There. Sorry about this terrible camera work. Another crack, and that crack in fact goes back to the neck pocket, the screw hole. So, you know, and some people go, well, maybe it's only finish, but I think since this is it doesn't feel like only finish, and one of the reasons why I say that is because I'm not confident that this has got any more tightening in it as much as it should. So it's a kind of fractionally less tight than all the others, because I think it's potentially might be stripping, but it's solid at the moment. But anyway, so I think this has had a bang somehow. I don't know if it's clunked it on the edge. The damage is down here, so it may be, and this is a silly way of expressing it, but it may be that, I better zoom out for this because I can't see it. So I'm thinking that it's been banged down like this. Nothing's hit this. I think it's driven the heel into there, and it's bashed a whole bunch of granules into there. So it's probably been, could even have been dropped like so. That's probably the most likely thing, in which case this is broken. Even the inertia or momentum of the neck can carry on pushing down. So anyway, so I've done my best to fix those little bits. So what we've got left now is the setup part of it, which should be fairly straightforward. So we've got higher action than we want here, and we've got intonation that's out on these, on this, what do you call them? They've got a bit out. The saddles here, and if you know about the old Floyd Roses, I'm not massively experienced with them because I don't play them hardly at all, but I do like them because as a tremolo unit, they are the best moving, kind of freest moving, most sturdy and dependable because they're locked at both ends, or there's a lock at that end and micro tuners here. So I do really like them. The only thing is they are harder to set up, and so this one has the intonation pattern. It looks a bit, well, that isn't it, so don't go by the screws, but if I look at these, we go forward, back quite a lot, back a tiny bit, forward a little bit, back a little bit. They're just slightly out. They're not miles out, but I did a check earlier on tuning, so there's a little tiny bit of adjustment. So this one's too far forward by quite a bit, so we need to take that one back, the high E. So I think basically I know I've got one or two, actually I've got three that register as good. So the others I can manually adjust them without getting a special tool to do them under load. So I'll do them at the point at which I slack off the strings to reduce the action. Now there's a whole long old debate about the, I've attracted ire in the past when people have said, because with this kind of thing you don't have any option for raising or lowering the action. This is if you like, a preset radius on these saddles, and then they go up and down on these two posts, and that's your lot. So it's the tremolo that comes up and down. So in order to reduce the action a little bit, let's measure and see what it is right now. I've currently already marked up the strings, blackened them up. Sorry about if this is a terrible camera view. I just want to get a reference point. So the action on the high E string looks very high at the moment. Blimey, we've got 3 mils. So actually we've got just over 3 mils, 3.1 on the treble side, and 2.6, 3, 1 and 2, 6. 3, 1 and 2, 6. 3, 1 and 2, 6. So we are about twice as high on the high side. Now it may be that there's problems with the uneven frets underneath, which wouldn't surprise me at all. There's nothing about a Schecter more or less than any other guitar that's going to have perfectly good frets. Now the thing about this one is always a bit of a pain, because in order to, if we're going to take the load off the strings, then what's going to happen is that this thing, the tremolo, is going to want to undo and drop off. So and because of the way this is done, it's a bit what's the word, hit and miss. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the locking tuners, or slack off the locking tuners at this end, which gives me freedom to move everything, and this is obviously going to slack off. Now, well, I can probably speed it up by using my thingy. It's an odd, non-standard shaped headstock, so I have to be careful to make sure I don't get any, don't catch the finish as we go round. Okay, so there's that slacked off. Now, the issue with the the adjustment is, here we go, we can take it down quite a bit at this end and down a bit at this end, but the question is how much. So your guess is as good as mine. Now I've got it currently, hopefully, I'm just trying to get this, I want to get this just supported enough so it's horizontal. Actually, that's not bad, that's horizontal with no tension. So we can tighten up a fair bit without, I just want to be able to measure the height. Now what we're going to do on this is going to change some strings out for a slightly heavier bottom end for drop DC drop C tuning. Okay, so at the moment I've got enough tension in there just to have a look at the action, and I'm holding it in the horizontal position so I can check and see where I'm going. So we're just over 150 there, which is good. We're still high on that side. So while it's not really under tension, I'm going to screw this in a little bit more. Now of course if we run out of downward adjustment there and we can't get the target action, then the only thing we are able to do from that point is to shim the neck heel, which I don't really want to do, if we can avoid it. Okay, so now we're at 150 and a tiny bit more. So that's a slightly, I mean, it's kind of fractionally uneven, which is a funny thing to see on a what do you call it, a Floyd Rose. You kind of don't like the idea of this being further down, but there's no vertical adjustment on here, which I'd much rather the plate was perpendicular, no right angle, no, yeah, in the same plane as the body, and that we could bring the saddles up, but we can't. Now what I want to do is bring this up to pitch, and I might be able to just about do it. It might help me out. What I'm going to do is just undo these little fellas as well while we're at it, just so that we've got as much adjustment room as possible. Now, this theoretically would stay in tune if I let go of it, but actually it looks like it's maybe come a tiny bit forward, so it wasn't quite balanced in the correct way, but it's not far off. So it's not bad at all. It's pretty close. So now I'm going to do, for the purpose of this leveling, do you know what? I'm not going to do that because I don't need the precise tuning for this. So I'm going to take these little saddles off. Sorry if you can't see very well. I'm going to put them out of the way. I don't need them on for the fret leveling part, so let's get them out of the way. Okay. So we've got the action I want. We may well now find we've got some may have some chokes, we may not, but I'm going to go ahead and level it. But first I'm going to double check the neck relief, which is a little bit in there, which is good. How much is in there? A little bit more than none is what I like to say. So I'm happy with that the way it is. I'm going to level it with that amount of relief and with oh my, funny enough, I've been making and selling the legendary, glorious, what do I call it? Golden Banana, which is a kit containing, fret leveling kit containing a sort of hand adjusted, tailored, tweaked rod. And they've changed the way they make them at the moment, so I'm having to do adjustments. But it's good actually, because I can start them out perfectly flat, which I couldn't do before. But thankfully, since they've changed the way they are, what they've done is they've made this adjuster fatter and it sticks out into the cutting surface. So I've had to change that, or I have to on the new ones. This isn't too bad actually. This is one of them. It's at risk of sticking out just a little tiny bit, so I have to machine this down, and then I have to make sure it's flat to begin with, which is quite nice because mine has never been able to go dead flat, and as a result, when I slack it off like this to get it pretty flat, it sometimes falls apart. But I should treat myself to a new one and do the golden banana treatment on it. Anyway, so I'm now going to use this most wonderful of fret leveling tools on methods, I should say, to level the frets on here. Now, first of all, it needs a little bit of tightening, so put a tiny bit of curvature in it. So, weird world, in the weird and wonderful modern world, my stepson has got his girlfriend visiting. Can I get this out of here without breaking it? I can probably pull it to one side slightly. Yes, and it's somebody who they've known each other, kind of going out, inverted commas, with each other for about 3 or 4 years, without ever having met. And she's from Chile, and she's over visiting, come over to a wedding of friends who all know each other virtually online, which is the weirdest thing. And I'm a bit of an old-fashionedist in some ways, but the fact is I met his mum online, and we the funny part of it is that at the time I did think it was a sad thing to do, to go online, and because it was 20 odd years ago today. No, not today, but it was 20 years ago today and a bit. And I was very judgmental because a friend of mine said, why don't you go online and see what dating online's like? And my first reaction was, no, that's just for sad gits. So I didn't want to do it. And then actually a part of me was a little bit slightly more enlightened, aware part of me was, I was conscious of the tendency to write things off or judge them without trying them. So I said, no, I've got to. If I have a judgment about it, I'm going to give it a try, because it's just wrong to have that opinion about it without trying it. So I went online and met Claire, and the rest is history. A little dip there, but we're going to have to kind of eke that out when we get to the G track, because that just because that fret, those 2 frets there are a tiny bit low, it means the high E bends there are just beginning to choke out. So that's okay for now, but we know that we're going to have to take care of the unevenness in the G track in order for those high E bends to work. I know what I mean, you do too. I'm already calibrated, so I'm going to use the same calibration for this second track. Now I'm going to lift this out if I can. I'm not sure I can do this without slacking this a bit, but then we tend to, I'm worried that we get a complete mess up of all of the the seating of the way that the thing is sitting. Actually, it's not too bad, and we're still horizontal. Yes. So anyway, so he said a few months ago, she's coming over. And it's like, oh my God, we've only got a tiny little house, and I just felt the idea of somebody meeting someone they'd never met before, but considered themselves serious, fully committed boyfriend and girlfriend. I just, in our little tiny home, just felt kind of, whoa, not sure I'm cool on this. But anyway, I had to sort of think, look, you met his mother that way, and blah blah blah. Anyway, so we picked them up last night, but in a way it was good because they went to, he met her in Heathrow a few days ago, and they went to the wedding. This is interesting. I think this radius, oh man, that's incredible. So the radius of this bridge is not the same as the radius of the neck. How about that? That is terrible, and it's a non-adjustable. So we've got just about 1.25 going on here. There we go. And here it's down to almost just about a millimetre. In fact, it's a millimetre, and then so this is practically flat. In fact, this is supposed to have a radius in it, but it's a lot. Whatever it is, I think these are supposed to be 13.75 or no, hang on, that's Ibanez, isn't it? I can't remember. Whatever this is, this radius here is a lot flatter than this, and as a result, these middle strings are much lower than much is relative, but much in terms of having a low action. If I've got this at 1.5 over here, this is now down at 1. That's quite a big difference. So that's where the difference in radius between this and this comes into play, and I'm not best thrilled. That seems a really stupid limitation, and I don't know why it's done with so little thought. Apparently, somebody might have an idea and they might defend Schecter or whoever. But if you want to be in control of your playing action, it's either got to, the bridge radius has got to match the fingerboard radius, or you're going to have difficulties. You're going to have an uneven feel where your outer strings are flying and your inner strings are either there at the correct ideal target playing action, or and the outer strings are flying, or the outer strings are at the correct action and the inner ones are dragging on the floor. So I think it's a bit naff, frankly. I'm going to put these out of the way as much as I can. Not thrilled with it. Bizarre. And I've always been a bit surprised at the limitation of the Floyd Rose without, just why it doesn't have individual saddle height adjustment. I mean, it seems to me that's what you really need. Now, looking at the amount or the relative amount of uneven frets, we've got a low spot that's quite a low spot that's developed up here. So it's hard to see it, but yeah, right there, that's where we might still get any chokes. But that mismatch is just a very odd thing. So as you saw, I put the ease to my target playing action, and it immediately turned out that was too low in the middle. These won't be perfect because it's in balance. But now what I want to check is the not bad. just about working. Yeah, so that's just a very peculiar choice. Why would it be so hard to build in individual height adjusters? Would it be so hard? Is it that impossible? Somebody will tell me. There must be some sort of obvious thing about why you don't do it with a Floyd Rose, but I don't understand it. You know, normally you kind of, Floyd Roses I remember tended to have not had to do this with them like I have with this one. So as to why, I probably should have left this just locked in place with the wedge under it, but it's fine. It'll do for now. Yeah, so I'm normally, you know, I'm not really don't recall dropping one side much lower than the others before, but this one needs it because it was pretty high to begin with. In a way, you could partly shim one side of the neck if you wanted to take care of it without any slant at all on your bridge, but then you'd be canting the neck up. Canting the neck up at a certain angle. Now we have got that gap, or that low spot, sorry, up here at the top end still. These frets are a bit low here now, so they're not cutting at all. So a whole load of low ones here and a bit higher at the end. So it's not a perfect neck or fingerboard by any means, but it's I think we'll get it all right. Right, let's calibrate the. Oh, let's try. Sorry, the D first. Make sure. That definitely is. Here we've got 1.5, and then we've got 1 point. No, we're actually on 1. So that's that is practically flat. Could this be rising up off the deck? Kinked up? Could it be? Oh, you know what? I think it is. How is that doing that? That's bizarre. Oh, well, that doesn't help. So first of all, bloody hell. First of all, this one is sprung up, so it's buckling upwards, and that's because it's not screwed down. There's one. There's the other. That's not the right one. I need the one that I put in the bag. Not that one. I found it under the pickup, under the neck pickup, so it's in this bag in the pocket. Come on, where are you? Here we are. Yes, it got stuck underneath the neck pickup. So this one here it isn't the right one. What was it for then? This is the one for those at the end. So I'm still missing one. No, that's not that one. Come on, somebody. It's not that one. That's 3. That's a different one. Holy cowser. Would it be this one? Yes. So this, no, yeah, it is that one. This one needs tying down. So that's why that saddle was sticking up. I thought, right, good. I thought that was too crappy. Now that has basically has put that down where it should be. I should probably have gone and tested all of these darn things to make sure that they they were in fact, let's just lower this off. I'm going to just make sure they're all done up, because if they're not, we're going to have similar problems. I'll tension it up afterwards. It'll be fine. It doesn't have any impact on the leveling. The leveling's still fine the way it was going, but it has to do with the angle of the whole plate. I thought that was a bit odd. Right, so I've never encountered these being loose before like this. So that one was sticking up because it was loose. So it's in the wrong place at the moment. So that one's down, that one's done up. So all the rest appear to be done up. Okay, so that was a first stop, first port of call problem. So what we actually need to do with this one is, this one's quite a bit sharp, so we do need to take this one back anyway. So that's going to go back to, where's it going to go back to? I have got one of those little devices that I never use. I never ever use. It's so dusty, and I can't remember which way round it's got to go. In fact, it ain't going to work unless I take off that thing. I'll have to figure that out another day, because that's beyond me at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this manually to where I want it to be, which is there, and then I'm going to do it up like so. Bum, bum, bum. That was good. That one is, G is good, slightly sharp. So the G can go back a tiny bit. D. Then we've got D is slightly sharp. We need to tension that right off. Sorry about this detour, all for that one odd thing there. So, Ryan, for future reference, these screws need to be all flat, because these saddles at this end are they're hinged, and if they're flat, they push down flat like that. If they're screwed down, they push flat and sit flat, so the radius is maintained. But this had gone like that, and it pushes up the front part of the saddle, or the apex is at the point that comes up like that. So that wasn't good. So they're good, they're good. D, A, and E. Right. Okay. So now what I know is that this can come back up in line where it should be, because everything else was being equal. Should be about right. Now we're under lock, so I will tune up. One of those big flies. Windows, oh, not open. Cyclists. So just check the action now again. Here we have, perfect, that was a good guess, 1.25. 1.5. Right, good. I'm going to, actually, we'll just tune it. That's so close to balance anyway, it's the wedges just come out easily. Okay, now we're back. There you go. I bet somebody might have been watching that going, no, you're missing the point. You could have told me. Anyway, let's do the D, A, and E now. Hurrah. Yeah, that bothered me. But you could hear me working it out, saying I'd never had that experience before where I've had to drop down one side, and there was something wrong, but I didn't quite know what it was. And then I figured it out. So let's push this out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to level the D track. Ryan mentioned to me that there's some vibration he gets through the springs, which has been annoying him. So I'm going to try and listen out for that. Put the sensors out to see if I can feel that. Not sure. I mean, you can usually cure that with some foam or some tape going around the springs. Good. Yes, some tape or foam will stop that happening, but let's see if we can hear it first. Yes, so anyway, so the stepson and girlfriend are at home, and it's very sweet, believe it or not. They seem very happy to, I mean, they've spent a week together by now, I think, but they're very chuffed to be together. So we're kind of hoping, thinking, well, you have to go and get a place together or something. Please. Hoping that maybe she'll be the motivation he needs to leave the nest, shall we say, in a natural world metaphor, because it's a bit overdue, being that he's in his starting into the second half of his 20s very soon. How can I ever remember what year he was born? Because I wasn't there. Yeah, so he's a late fledger, but you know, they have to work it out. So it could be the spark needed to get him out and about, being independent. Although, how the hell anyone would do it in terms of house prices, and you know, it's kind of very, very difficult. But you know, if you want to make a life, then you have to. You know, there is rent, and I don't envy people who are going into the private rental system, because that feels pretty. I don't know what the word would be. Pretty not predatory, but you know, it's a lot of, it's a high cost. But so this balance on the tremolo will change after I've put the different strings on, but we'll just recalibrate it to the weight of those, or the force of those strings, the slightly thicker bottom end strings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to need to put some fresh paper on that shortly, But now it's time to remove the strings, and we'll give everything a clean up while we're here. I noticed too that the finish is bubbling on the front of here underneath the tuner, so I don't know whether that's because it was the tuners were put on when it was wet or soft or whatever, but either which way, it's let's put it like so. It's ended up causing puckering of the plastic. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just ugly. Factory problem. Right. So everything else is good. I'm interested to note that this first fret didn't get included in the leveling. It seemed lower than the others, so nothing I could do about that. And as the first fret, it's not a major. It didn't show up any problems, so it wasn't creating a problem. But I think I probably might be time to give myself a fresh banana, since I've been using this one for years without sprucing it up. And now I've sold 2 of the kits with the custom prepped banana in place, which is very cool because I enjoyed getting it all beautifully level and everything. So what am I doing? Oh yes, let's undo these here thingies. My goodness. Hello. Again, the old what do you call it? This thing. It's such an odd beast, you know, that the strings at this end are held by these little metal blocks. It just to me seems a very crude and thoroughly unsatisfactory way of. Oh, it's crunching that wood. Unsatisfactory way of holding a piece of string in place. Now, the thing to do is once you've taken the string out, is try to remember to do the blocks up to keep them in place. Otherwise, they can run the risk of falling out. And then you're looking for them somewhere. Okay. There's the strings out. Let's just even that up by putting it there. Take the tremolo arm out for a minute since it's not needed. So you can see everything's mucky at the moment. So I'm going to give it a first clean down, just really to get rid of as much of this dust as possible. But I'll need to do it again once I've polished all the frets out in thingied, sanded and polished them out. But we'll just get a sort of first going over, and this will just get rid of most of the dust and a bit of the grime, but we'll build up some more dust in a minute. That's fine. This also should help by taking some of the grime off. It'll make the fingerboard hold the low tack tape. It won't fall off, let's put it that way. Which you can do sometimes if it's very dusty or greasy, oily. Okay, so that's just a first run through clean up. Using a filthy cloth, which we'll reuse later. Get rid of all the cut strings, and then we'll go into the recrown and polish process. I have to make up some more papers. So the recrowning file, or the legendary Stu Mac crowning file, that thing there. So again, I'll use some marker pen for this to help me see what the file is doing. Yeah, that was a good little learning thing there, thinking that there was something about that radius that was either wrong. It is a fixed radius, but I couldn't believe it was wrong. Be wrong. So although it looks pretty flat, but then it's a fairly flat radius neck anyway. So yeah, I'll know next time. Okay. Yes. Anyway, so the lad and his internet girlfriend are at home. I think they've got trips out planned, which is funny because he's, we live in a village and he's got no transport, so trips out mean that his mum or I have to take them somewhere. Still, she seems very easy to get on with. Nice personality, and she loves the cats, including Morris. So all is well at the house at the moment. So I'm kind of assuming everybody knows what I'm doing, but what I am doing here is I'm rounding off any flattened areas of the frets. So when you level frets, by definition, you are flattening the fret to a point where the surface is level. The surfaces are all level relative to each other. And in this case, we're using this method. We're doing that with the neck loaded and the strings on. Or the strings on so that the neck is loaded as it is when you're playing. So that makes it a more accurate leveling. But of course it flattens a little bit of the fret in order to make it level. And so what I'm doing now is, because we don't want flat spots on the frets. To be fair, they have to be pretty severe flat spots to really make a playing difference. But technically, we don't want flat spots on there because they shift the intonation point a little bit towards the bridge, making it, slightly upsetting the intonation. But anyway, it's also just good form to recrown them, and by recrowning, what we're doing is we're rounding off the fret again, so that it's the right shape, but we're not going any lower. So we're making it the right shape whilst retaining its relative levelness that we've just arrived at with the leveling method. And that's why the marker pen comes in really handy, because it lets me see that I'm rounding off the sharp edges or the flat spots back into an arch shape, curved arch fret shape. But we're doing it without losing any height, and that's what the marker pen informs me of. I think it could be that this thing's nearing the end of its life. It's getting a little bit clogged. Funny part is only a tiny amount of this gets actually used. This surface here hardly ever gets used. The curved bit is the optimum part to use when leveling, so you can come at that angle. If you try to use another part of it, which is now probably going to have a much better cutting strength, you have to come in at a flat angle, which certainly anywhere near the body end of things is really not what you want. You want obviously the tool to be clear of the finish, which is what Stumac got right about this tool in the beginning. And it's not cheap. It's about 100 I can't remember how much it is now, but I think it was about 120 quid when I bought mine 8 years ago or something, 10 years ago nearly, and it's performed brilliantly ever since. But it's the right design. You know, and so even while it's pretty expensive, I wonder if I've got any. I've got some solvent stuff here, but I don't know whether I can. I'm going to brush on it, see if I can just. Sorry, I'm out of camera view. I'm just going to see if I can scrub off any of the particles of goo on here. Yeah, so it's turned out over the years to be an extremely good, great value for the money. So I have no complaints at all about it. And actually, StewMac is, you know, they are pricey, but actually in my experience, they've got a good reputation for customer service, and you know, I would, on that basis, I sort of was happy to pay the extra money and have the sort of peace of mind. So you know, I'd read, I think somebody had commented in the feedback on the StewMac site at the time that I had this such and such tool or file or whatever, and it cost me quite a lot, but you know, when I found it wasn't working the way I had expected, they replaced it with no quibble at all. So that sort of testimonial goes a long way to changing one's mind, or making up one's mind about paying the extra for the reputation. Anyway, so look, that's those done. So the next thing I've got to do now is mask it off, ready for polishing and sanding and polishing, that way around. And what I might just do is I might just spare you the misery, because this is no different from any other guitar on this channel. So this part of it, I'm going to just mask off everything. And actually with this, because there's a metal piece there, I either take it off, which I'll probably do, or mask it off as well, because I don't want sandpaper scraping down the metal here. So we've got two little screws on here. It's screwed into the wood, it's not bolted in with nuts on the other side. So what we can do is remove it, and any shims that are underneath it, we'll just put those off to one side. They're usually very precisely machined parts, these, so that will fit back on and go right back into the same position. A little bit of lip to the holes, but I'm not going to mess with those lest we take the action down somewhere we don't want to take it, because it's felt pretty good as it was. Okay, so I'm going to go and mask all of this off, including cut a load of short pieces, thin pieces, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to come back when that's done. Meanwhile, I'm going to watch something to keep my brain interested. See you in a little bit. Okay, we are polished out and ready to refit strings or put new strings on. Sorry about the camera work. I'm very slack at the moment. So I'm going to zoom out here and, excuse me, look, actually, let's go down this end first, because I'm going to put them there, bits of string in. We're going to fit strings in there. So I've got my 1052s, which are a bit on the heavier side than normal, because they've got a heavy bottom end, and I've got a blade that is already useless, so I have to break it and get a sharp bit out of it. So here we go. So some people like to put these on and leave the ball sticking out the top, and some people just cut the whole ends off and call it quits. So I'm going to cut the ends off, and we're going to work with cut strings. So and then we need this one, right? So here we go. First one in. Push it all the way in. Tighten it up. There we are. And the same on this one. Open it up, push it in, and tighten it up. Now we're going to need to Put the arm back in for a minute and just move this off to one side so we can get the other strings in. Now one of the things I think when it comes to fitting your strings in a Floyd Rose, you really got to make it important to stretch the strings out before you lock everything down, because it's the easiest thing in the world to kind of jump the gun, lock everything down, and then find it continually going out of tune and driving you mad. So before you do the final locking down, you definitely want to put some effort into stretching out. Now this one, I'm going to do it in, what way am I going to do it? Is there a particular way? I'm just trying to think. Bend. I'm just trying to think. There's one string different, or I think it's one gauge of string different on the low E from before, but that will have a slight change in where it sits. Right, let's go down to this end. See what you can see. Okay, I'll get the power thing out to help me along. I'm going to get this one on there. Okay, pull it back 1 fret's worth, get it the right way around. Now, I've probably done that slightly different to how I would have wanted it. So let me undo that. First one over. This time under and in the slot. That's better. We'll do it the same way as normal. Okay. Find out, get all the holes in line is a good start. Oh, don't forget, go underneath. With a slightly heavier gauge as well, we might need a truss rod adjustment. Or we might not, might be fine. Now, this is a bit difficult to go over the top this time, because it's underneath the string retainer bar, but it should be alright. Jolly good. Under, through, up. I had a comment the other day. I made a comment which was, I could never see the point of this string retainer bar, unless of course you didn't want to play with the you want to lock off the tremolo and use it as a hardtail. That to me would suggest then yes, you might want the string retainer, but the angle is good enough as it is. So I actually don't get why there is this retainer bar, and somebody kind of chastised me on one of my videos the other day as if it was so blasted obvious, and of course you need an idiot, and I still absolutely didn't get, and don't get why that does, what that does of any use whatsoever. So if you have a view on that, enlighten me, please. But in a friendly way, like you would enjoy helping somebody understand something instead of finding them at fault and stupid. Yeah, so anyway, so with this one, I think we probably, with one string different, we might be able to just go straight back to where we were and tweak it into equilibrium. But if I was starting from scratch, then I would probably use the Galeazzo Frudua method, and in which case I would block it off, tighten up all the springs at the back, get it to float, let go of the springs, and then tune it back. That sort of method that Galeazzo F uses, but everybody's got their own favourite Floyd Rose method, and sometimes they can get really confusing, and I mean, I tend to just prop them up, get them to equilibrium, and go from there. I'm not very sorry, it's not very instructive, is it? Okay. So strings are on. Let's get rid of the packaging. So notice I'm not going anywhere near the locking caps yet. That's a way off. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom out. I'm going to just give everything a little pull. Make sure everything's seated. Whoops, there goes the block of wood for a minute. So let's see where we go with just a tune by hand. So this is pulling, oops, the extra pull is pulling that up a little bit. So I think what I would do is put that in there. And what we'll do is we'll take off, bear with me, we'll take off the back plate and we'll screw the tremolo claw in, the claw screws. And we'll do it the Galeazzo way. So we'll set it up hardtail and then we'll let it jump forward and we'll float it back into equilibrium using the claw screws. Right, Sun Valley, California, Schecter guitar research. Okay, now what I want to do is put that in there, and I'm going to, you can't see this, but I'm going to tighten up the tremolo claw screws. One thing I give the Schecter is that you get a better grip, a better bite at the claw screws than you do on a lot of guitars. So I'm now going to just pull this back, and I'm going to do a bit more screwing up. I want this to hardtail it against the wedge, basically. Well, that's amazing. That's pulling, oh my goodness. That's not going to work, is it? Nice going, Schecter. Just going to have to disconnect this ground wire because that is stupidly stretched. I'll make sure we'll reconnect that. So they actually didn't make, that's interesting, they didn't make the ground wire, so the bridge ground wire, long enough to actually ground the thing and do this setup, this type of setup on it, which is quite funny really. Okay, so there's my hard-tailed position. Right. Let me cut off these excesses first. These great big 52 gauge 10 to 52s. Okay, those are those, and those. Right, so I've set, basically I've hard-tailed it. That's interesting. So let me just see. Wow, that's my imagination as the action changed substantially. That's weird. So what I want is this set horizontal, or is it a different line? Some tremolos go horizontal, some have a little mark on them, but this one should be horizontal to the guitar top, which does curve a little bit there, but that's okay. So that changes the playing action a fair bit. So which means in order to unchange it, I'm going to have to take some of the load off. Don't really want this going back, do I? Sorry, I'm going to and fro here at the moment. Right, that should be locked in place. Right, I'm going to take down the action, just double check it, take down the action a little bit, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, just put enough load on it to check it. Still over 1.5. Just about. Run along here. Okay, so there's my hardtail. check the action. Just over 1.5. It's funny, that's just over 1.5 and that's a bit too much over 1.2. So in, tiny bit. Where we are we horizontal? Are we horizontal? We are horizontal. We are at 1.5 fraction over. We are at fraction over 1.25. I'm going to do a quarter turn down on each, and then I'm going to tighten, do it up as if I was tuning a normal guitar, and then I'm going to stretch out as if I was doing a normal guitar. Quarter turn each. I used to have, and used to put a mark on here, used to look a bit rude, but it used to tell me where I was. And I could see a simple quarter turn like so. Just quick check. Okay, good. One there, good. Yep, that's good. Now, what I just want to check is the relief, and if the extra bit of relief on there, which there is, let's adjust that. So I'm going to just flatten that out a tiny bit more. And we shall get a 90-degree hex key out. I'm going to go in and we're going to go, if I've got the right size, is this the right size, 4 mils, or is it going to be more than 4 mils? That's 4. A little bit of, a tiny bit of straightening to go in there, and we'll just test it. Now, didn't I just put, there it is. Just check this. Now it's gone flat. It's a very, very tiny amount. So I might as well go back and just tweak it back a tiny fraction. There. Half what I did, basically. Let's just check. Yep, that will do me. Let's do this back up. So a tiny bit more than none is my relief watchword, and that had increased a little bit because of the extra gauge, heavier gauge on the bottom strings, or 2 strings. Okay, so just going to kind of give a little bit of a squeeze, tune it up again, and then I'll do some stretching. Okay, so just so that your box ends up being in tune, before you do any locking downs, make sure all your micro tuners are near the top. I almost never have to go the other way, so, and having said that, probably some do behave a bit differently, but I'm putting these all near the top, and I'm going to basically just now stretch out the strings. And with one of these here, Floyd Roses, the more you stretch out and get all of that taken care of, the less you're going to have to keep adjusting the micro tuners and or slacking off the locking nuts to make a gross tuner adjustment and then set all your micro tuners back and so on and so forth. That can be an absolute royal pain if you end up having to do that. So get rid of all the slack first at this stage. Those plain strings are pretty stable already, which is good. It's just a stretchy, while the wound ones tend to hold a bit more slack than the others, but still worth kind of getting rid of that. And what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to let go of the block, and the thing will go backwards and then end up tightening up, and then we'll go around the back and we'll slack it off until it retunes back to where we wanted it, and that should be in the same position then. Okay, one more go on the stretchings and then I'll be ready to drop it back in. So it's a sort of modification of the Galeazzo Frodua method. The complication of that method, if there is such a thing as a complication, is the fact that because it's the original method is designed or developed for use with a Strat tremolo, and for which you have to have a range of up bend, you have to float the thing already. This you don't have to float, we're starting from horizontal, but we do have to hold it horizontal in order for this to work. But they're using the same kind of principle. Pretty much good. Very good. Right, so what I then want to do is I want to take away the block, and lo and behold, go sharp. Then what I want to do, forgot to do, is to get my tuner, and I'm going to plug into the tuner, and we're going to use tremolo claw springs to bring this back to pitch. So right now the G, for example, will be sharp. Instead of going anywhere near the tuners, I'm now going to use the claw springs at the back to come back out to G. And what you'll find, as if by magic, when this returns to G, the tremolo will be horizontal back up and horizontal where it was a minute ago. I promise you. That's the beauty of the simple method. We'll just do just G sharpish, so we're not far off. Coming down into sharp of G. Slightly sharp of G, and we're coming all the way back. You can't see the tuning thing. Slightly sharp of G, but only just. And horizontal. That's good. That's where I want it. So that means we've brought it back into position by adjusting the screws, and that's where they end up, and that's where we have it. Now theoretically we should now be back at a good action, just under 1.5, and we're about the same all the way across. So what I'm going to do now is, since we've stretched out everything, now is the time. Oh, hellfire, what's going on there? Oh. Oh well, I can't do anything. We're on to this. Sorry about that. It's the old story, the stupid thing in memory. Right, I'm gonna do up these things now. So now we've got tuning stability, so we can now just do this, lock these caps off. We're in position. We've got maximum range still in those because we haven't done any micro adjustments. So now we tighten those up. Sometimes, it doesn't happen on this one, but on some guitars you get a bit of a pitch raise when you press these down. You shouldn't, but sometimes you do. In which case you do need the downward tuning on this, but okay, I think I like. Very good. So now I'm going to, what I am going to do is I'm going to extend this puny little wire. I don't know what they made that for. I have to crank up the soldering machines of industry and get a little bit of extra wire. Bear with me. It's not such a clever thing, really, given how, well, maybe they thought I would use a different method for setting the tremolo back up. Well, they were wrong, weren't they? So I'm just giving myself a bit of a extra wire, and we'll join it with the existing one with a bit of a heat shrink in between, just to make sure it's all safe and sound. Oh, you're up there, aren't you? So I'm just going to tin the thing and prep the wires. So this one needs a blob of solder hanging off it for a join, and so does this one because it's going to the other end. Okay, we need to turn that off. We need to find a good joining cable. How about a bit of white? That's a nice colour. So first thing I'm going to do is bring that around there, bring that over there, lift this up. I've got left and right here, but I want a bit straight. strip a bit of this off as well. Probably do well to put a bit of tinning on there as well for the joint, for the fun of the join, like so. Now we're going to put on our heat shrink, bring these together like so. Probably can't see very well, but join them. Ow, I just burnt my finger. Join them up, bring that up to there, get that out of the way, bring me heat gun, bring me heat gun. There we go. So we have a nice extra bit of distance, and it's not straining to reach like it was before. I mean, it was straining even before I moved the those things, whatever they're called, claw screws. Doesn't transfer the heat very well, this thing. Come on you go. That's going to be alright. That's that. Now we're going to replace that. Okay, we're at the end of the setup, ladies and gentlemen. People sometimes say, go all the way through that and you didn't show me the adjustments or any adjustments you made to the pickups, and I'm not adjusting them because it's a subjective deal, and a customer like Ryan already has them set where he wants them, and if there's a recommendation, I don't have a recommendation, I just have a sort of what do they call it, conventional wisdom that says the closer the poles are to the strings, the greater the output, but the lesser the tonal dynamics, and vice versa is true. All the reverse applies. So the further away, the lesser the output, and the greater the tonal range dynamic. I've not tested that destructively myself, to at least not to any point satisfaction, to really be able to say that I'm convinced one way or another, but that's what they say. Anyway, so look, I've got a phone that's run out of memory because it's so stupid. I've got a backup video, thank goodness, which has captured everything. That's going home to get cleared off. I'm done. Thank you for watching. Oh, did I do a final tuning check? I didn't, did I? Let me just do that, because we hopefully we don't have to slack anything off the gross tuners, as I would call them. No, look at that, right on it. There we are, fabulous, all done. It's going home. See you later, thanks for watching.